So it's finally March, and this is the sowing and growing video for March, and it's such an exciting time for me. Almost all the polytunnel is now fully planted with everything that we'll be harvesting all the way through until the end of spring, and that's pretty much the same for the most of the allotment as well. Almost everything is planted, and so all my focus now turns to the outdoor plantings in this kitchen garden, and there's a few bits and pieces around my plot and then lots of stuff on Debbie's plot. So I really love doing these, sowing the seeds that are going to be planted outdoors, and it's something just so special about outdoor planting by comparison with planting in polytunnels and things like that. I love it. So what's this video about? So I do a quick review of all of the seedling progress from February. Now, most of that I covered in a previous video a couple of days ago, so I'm only going to skim through that. I'll just overlay those little snippets of video as I'm talking about the February sowings. But generally speaking, February has gone great. Then we're on to March and everything that I'm sowing in March. And I'm showing you the database that I use for all of my planning. You can get a copy of that database. All the details are down in the description. And if you want to just browse that, find out details of the varieties, or check up on a sowing date, or check up on how I'm using grow lights or something like that, then all those details are also down below. So first up is February. Let's just take a quick look back and skim through the sorts of things that I did in February. Because I'm growing in lights and planting under cover, quite a lot of what I did in February you probably want to do in March. And I'm really happy with the February sowings so far. Okay, let's take a really quick look then at February. So basically, as we're saying, almost nothing from February has been planted out. So it's only really stuff from January. I'll just point out any exceptions if there are. All the last few onions, they're all growing well. Oregon sugar pod, they're ready for planting. All of the peppers that I sowed in February, they're only small plants at the moment, so they're only about 2 inches tall, just starting to come with their true leaves. Leeks are up. Spinach, I've had some problems actually. I've had a few failed sowings where I've been using up old seeds. I'll just show you a list of those a bit later on. The radish, they've been planted out. The potatoes are going to be planted out in a couple of days. Into their final containers. They're in small pots at the moment. Broad beans are all up. All of those brassicas and all of these lettuces and cucumbers and things like that, they are also all up. I'll just put some quick videos up to show you the progress on those. Particularly pleased with those lettuces. There are just a few failed ones again using old seed packets, but I generally don't worry about that. I've got enough spares. And yeah, all of my Oregon sugar pods, which I'm growing for shoots, they are just up. And the carrots aren't because I only planted those, sowed those a few days ago. So that is February. So there's pretty good progress, just a few failures there. So if you're interested in any of the details from the stuff from February, then if you look in the description, there'll be a link to a page that renders like this with all of the details, including planting dates and all of that sort of thing. So this is March. So up until now, I've only been sowing bolt hardy beetroot, and now I think it's just on the verge of acceptability to start sowing golden beetroot, a little bit less hardy, a little bit more prone to bolting. These will still go and get planted out under cover though, in a cold frame or a low tunnel. I'm not exactly sure where. Celeriacs, perfect time now. Now, it's not a good time for courgettes. I'm only sowing these because I got a nice kind of technique for growing them. I start them in the conservatory, I plant them out in the polytunnel, I wrap them in a bubble wrap tent to protect them against frost, and I do get a really nice early crop. and since we don't buy anything from the shops, it's really nice. Debbie really likes those early courgettes, so it's worth that extra effort for us, but for a lot of people it won't be. So now I'm coming on to my first earlies that I grow in the polytunnel. So I've got some first earlies or super earlies rather, that I've grown in the conservatory. These are ones that will go in the polytunnel or in the little greenhouse. And then we're on to the leeks. So all the leeks that I've sown so far are summer leeks. Now I'm moving on to my first batch of winter leeks. Two nice varieties there, both new to me. Quite excited to try those. And some of these also can be harvested young as summer leeks. Well, all leeks can, but some of them are kind of designed for harvesting younger. And then North Holland Blood Red. This is my favourite spring onion. And I'm going to do basically 2 batches of spring onions every month. One at the beginning, one at the end. And then I do a tray of French breakfast radish and Tokyo Cross, half and half of each. And I do a couple of those every month. And then I'm on to my early baking potatoes now. Provided these grow with some protection, you can get a really nice yield of baking potatoes when you start them in early March. A little bit before then, you'd have to do it in the conservatory. But now, provided you've got a cold frame or a polytunnel or a greenhouse and you've got fleece, now is a quite a good time for those. And by early baking potatoes, I just mean the size. It's just growing something that is the size for baking. We find Arran Pilot and Charlottes are great for that. The Arran Pilots come a little bit earlier, about 3 or 4 weeks earlier than the Charlottes. By the time we finish the Arran Pilots, the Charlottes are ready. The yield from the Charlottes is a little bit better, the taste is a little bit better, and the keeping quality is much better. So then we're on to most of the brassicas that I will be sowing for winter and late autumn. So the Brussels sprouts, the red cabbage, the Romanesco's not, that comes earlier, and the kales, lovely selection of kales there. We much prefer kales, to be honest, to cabbage. We grow a wide range with lots of different tastes. Some are quite cabbage-like the Pentland Brig. And the colettes, again, those are for winter. Colettes are actually my top crop. I think if I was to choose just one thing for the combination of taste, value of the harvest, timing of the harvest, i.e. the most difficult time of year in midwinter, and health benefits, then it would be colettes. There's lots of other reasons to grow things, but when you use those criteria, colettes come out top for me. And I'm not actually planting my oca. What I do with my oca is I take the tubers in the middle of March and I just put them in compost. And I don't want that compost to be soggy. I just want it to be slightly moist, and to just keep it slightly moist until I see the sprouts coming from the oca, and then I'll start watering them. I'll keep them in the pots until there's no risk of frost in the polytunnel, and then I'll plant them out. So that will probably be middle to late March. And I've got the spinaches, loads of spinach at the moment, but obviously spinach starts to, especially over winter spinach, starts to go to seed in spring, so you need another sowing. And this is a new one for me actually. I got the tip from Steve Digwell Greenfingers channel, and he really recommended this one. And the key characteristic of it is it's low in oxalic acid, which is quite nice because it makes it extra sweet and even more healthy. So what's next? Mikado spinach. This is an Asian spinach, and this doesn't bolt as quickly as the true spinaches. It's nice to have a variety. Then we come on to the tomatoes now. I'm not truly really sowing my tomatoes on the 20th of March. What I'm doing is doing my test sowing to check that they all germinate fine. And I'm only sowing a couple of seeds, 2 or 3 seeds for each one, and I'll pick the healthiest one of those and I'll grow those on in containers in the polytunnel. So I'm grafting my tomatoes this year, or at least I'm trying to, and so I'll just do a practice with the grafting technique on this batch. Now, I've actually done a video on why I'm sowing my tomatoes quite late this year, and I'll release that in a couple of days' time. But basically, I don't think it makes much difference. It's a lot less hassle. I haven't got that much space, and I don't really like worrying that my tomatoes are going to get killed by the frost. So those are the tomatoes that I'm doing. Or at least they're the tomatoes that I'm doing in the polytunnel. And then I keep on sowing carrots. Every month I sow a couple of containers of carrots. And I do like to do beans in the polytunnel, and I sow them quite early. I will sow another batch in April, just in case we kind of get freak weather and a hard frost that kills the beans, but I do just wrap them in a bubble wrap and put a bit of fleece around them if frost threatens. And so I do a runner bean, a French bean, and a runner bean French bean cross. So we'll see how those all do. And then another courgette. Again, it's kind of just a reserve, just in case the really early one is lost to, again, a freak frost. And then just my repeat batches. So repeat batch of spring onions, repeat batch of French breakfast radish, and a repeat batch of turnips. So that is it. Quite a modest month, really, for me. Quite a nice selection of things, though. And I should point out, really, that I am fully planted now. So the polytunnel and the allotment is all planted. So I'm in no rush, really, to sow my seeds. In fact, I'm kind of in the opposite of a rush. I can pace myself. I've got plenty to eat, and I'm just looking now for peak yields, really. So all of my timings now are not about getting things early, they're about maximizing yield. So I did just want to show you my failed sowings. And first one was I had 2 containers of swift potatoes. They did not survive -6 degrees centigrade in the polytunnel. They were kind of a little bit crazily early, those. I don't really recommend doing potatoes until sort of mid-February, really. But sometimes I just can't help myself. And so, yeah, -6 doesn't really matter how much fleece, how much blanket, whatever you put on them, they're not going to survive -6. Scotch bonnet had 1 germinated. It's actually doing quite well, but I did sow probably 6 or 7 of those. I don't actually need that many of them, but it does count as a failure for me when I get such low germination. I also had a real issue with the sugar snap peas. I don't really know what happened to them. The second batch did great, but the first batch were just, they're just all weak and floppy. And they were sown at the same time as the Mange 2 peas, which did great. So, not really sure. The Ladiva, these were old seeds. One of them grew fantastic. The other 2, one of them didn't germinate at all, and one of them was the weakest, sickliest little plant you can imagine. So, again, that's the price you pay, I think, for using old seeds. Red vein sorrel, not a single one of those has germinated so far. Red kitten, I sowed, I don't know, probably 60 seeds. I got 1
germinated. Again, price you pay for you trying to use up old seeds. Sometimes they're fine and you just get 100% germination, and sometimes you just get nothing, and it's hard to tell. Seeds look the same, could be the same age. I don't really know what it is that triggers them to be non-viable. I did sow some perpetual spinach, again old seeds, no good. And I was going to see these trial peas. So I got these trial peas, got them last year, really liked them. Sugar snap pea, really tasty. And I sowed them, the ones I got left. I just tried sowing them this year, and I thought, no, nothing. When I did this, filled this in, and then I looked at them this morning, and they're all coming up. It took quite a long time to germinate, but we got there in the end. Tried again with those red kitten to see whether it was a fluke, and it wasn't a fluke. Again, none of those germinated. Mikado spinach from last year, same old story. Only probably 30% of that spinach germinated. So between the 3 trays of spinach that I did this month, I got 1 tray of seedlings in total. So yeah, sometimes I wonder why I bother using up old seeds, but then I just don't like the waste. And so that's it. And so I'm really pretty happy. I don't really mind about any of those failures. Worked my way around all of them, and so I'm pretty happy.
So if you want any more details about how I sow or plant or any other aspects of gardening, then I've got a free ebook. Again, all the details are down below, and I'll actually put links into the section on sowing and planting and the basic section of the book, which just covers all the basic things about gardening. And I think that's it. We're done. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.